8th post-cabinet press briefing. Allow me at this juncture to invite our chairperson, Dr. Soda, to present today's cabinet highlights. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. I recognize Honorable Masuka, Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Edgar Moyo, Public Service, Honorable Kambamura, Minister of Mines, Deputy Minister Omar Rupi from the Ministry of Information, senior government officials, members of the 40th State, ladies and gentlemen. Today, 25th of August 2026, His Excellency the President, Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa chaired the 28th Cabinet meeting, and the following issues, among others, were considered and approved. Under the Agriculture, Food, Climate and Environment pillar of the National Development Strategy 2, the Minister of Agriculture, Mechanization and Water Resources Development, Honorable Dr. Anxious Jongwe-Masuka, presented an update on the 2025-2026 summer crops marketing and 2026 winter crops production plan, which was adopted by Cabinet. Based on the second round of crop, livestock and fisheries assessment report, the country is expecting a surplus strategic grain reserve ranging between 550,945 metric tons and 964,945 metric tons at consumption rates of 10 kilograms per person per month and 7 kilograms per person per month, respectively. Government stocks held at the Grain Marketing Board as at the 19th of August 2026 stood at 252,177 metric tons, and deliveries for the 2025-2026 season were 126% above the 2024-2025 deliveries, with Mashonaland West Province accounting for 50.1% of the intake. Cabinet notes with satisfaction that the increase in national maize output was driven by an increase in both productivity and hectarage, showing that initiatives under the Food Systems and Rural Transformation Strategy number 2 are working as intended and targets are on course to be achieved. The total maize area planted increased from 1,818,974 hectares in 2025 to 1,963,292 hectares in 2026, representing an 8.2% increase, while the average national total production increased from 2,293,556 metric tons to 2,685,021 metric tons, reflecting a growth of 17.1%. The Grain Marketing Board has no outstanding farmer payments for the 2024-2025 season, and modalities have been put in place to ensure timely payments during the current marketing season. Government notes that tobacco production has continued to scale new heights with a total of 358.4 million kilograms heavy sold as of the 18th of August 2026. That was at an average price of US $2.49 per kilogram. This reflects a 1% increase in volume from 354 million kilograms in 2025, which was sold at an average price of USD $3.32 per kilogram. Tobacco exports remain firm, with cumulative tobacco exports as at 19th August 2026 reaching 138.25 million kilograms, valued at USD 791.85 million at an average export price of USD $5.73 per kilogram. This represents a 39% increase in export volume and a 4% increase in average price when compared to the corresponding period in 2025. Pertaining to winter crops production, the wheat area planted reached 106% of the targeted area compared to the 101% attained in the same time in 2025. In addition, an area of 7,013 hectares has been planted to barley, while a total of 243,850 metric tons is expected from the 9,000 hectares planted to Irish potato. In fulfillment of Zimbabwe's international multilateral obligations, Cabinet considered and approved the request for the country to undertake its fourth voluntary national review on the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the 2027 United Nations High-Level Political Forum, which was presented by the Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, Honorable Edgar Moyo. Zimbabwe will undertake its fourth voluntary national review on the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and present the progress review at the 2027 United Nations High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development under the auspices of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development comprises 17 sustainable development goals and is the global blueprint for eradicating poverty, protecting the planet, and promoting inclusive and sustainable prosperity by 2030. Regular and inclusive voluntary national reviews assess progress in implementing the SDGs, identifying challenges and emerging priorities, sharing lessons learned, and strengthening policy implementation. In the spirit of the whole of society approach, all citizens are called upon to accord the voluntary national review process priority as the country's principal national reporting mechanism on implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The Minister of Mines and Mining Development, Honorable Dr. Engineer Polite Kambamura, presented a report on the outcome of the Mine Entra 2026 Mine Engineering and Transport Expo, which was held from 29 to 31 July in Bulawayo, and Cabinet noted that report. The 2026 Mine Entra was successfully held under the theme, and I quote, "Unearth, Transform, Prosper, Accelerating Economic Transformation through Integrated Mining Value Chain," close quote. Affirming the imperative for Zimbabwe to move beyond raw mineral extraction towards local beneficiation, value addition, and inclusive local participation in line with NDS2 and Vision 2030. The exhibition recorded a 20% increase in floor occupants from 7,368 square meters in 2025 to 8,860 square meters in 2026, and attracted delegates from Zimbabwe and across the world from countries including South Africa, India, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, France, and Japan. Some highlights of the Entra, which was officially opened by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, included the Supplier, Energy and Infrastructure Symposium, the Exploration Symposium, the Beneficiation Symposium, the Exhibitors Welcome Cocktail, and the Mine Entra Charity Golf Challenge. Following the success of the Mine Expo 2026, the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development will continue to strengthen post-show and outcomes reporting in order to keep track of the value of business concluded at the 2026 and future editions. As part of efforts to accelerate attainment of National Development Strategy 2 targets under the Infrastructural Development and Housing Pillar, Cabinet noted the report on the benchmarking visit to Indonesia, Weda Bay Industrial Park from the 28th of July to the 3rd of August, as presented by the Minister of Energy and Power Development, Honorable July Moyo. The objective of the visit was to benchmark the Tsingshan-led industrial park model and assess its, assess its applicability in Zimbabwe in terms of leveraging the country's mineral resources as a catalyst for mineral beneficiation, industrialization, export growth, and economic transformation. Indonesia Weda Bay Industrial Park has evolved into one of the world's largest integrated mineral processing and manufacturing hubs, generating approximately USD 13 billion in annual industrial output. This global leadership position was achieved through government policies promoting domestic beneficiation and large-scale investment into processing, manufacturing, and downstream industries. Zimbabwe possesses comparable strategic advantages to replicate the Indonesian model and will therefore draw lessons from the Indonesia Weda Bay Industrial Park, which are applicable to Zimbabwe's industrialization agenda under a phased industrial park development framework. Cabinet received and noted a report on the 46th SADC Heads of State and Government Ordinary Summit, which was held in Durban, South Africa on the 17th of August 2026, as presented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Honorable Professor Emon Murwira. The summit reviewed the political and security situation in the SADC region and provided strategic leadership on the implementation of the pillars of the Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan, which is running from 2020 to 2030, in order to ensure alignment of programs and projects to regional priorities as well as emerging geopolitical landscape. Several key regional matters were tabled, including the update on the peace and security situation in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and Mozambique, and the program for the refoundation of Madagascar. The heads of state and government also agreed to strengthen manufacturing, intra-regional trade, health financing, regional infrastructure, regional foot and mouth disease control, the Regional Development Fund, and regional social cohesion and migration governance. Other highlights of the summit included the handing over of the SADC chairmanship to the President of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, by Zimbabwe's President, His Excellency Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, while Zambia was elected the incoming chairperson of SADC, and Eswatini elected chairperson of the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation. During the summit, 4 legal instruments were signed and Judge Custom Kachambwa was appointed among 6 judges to the SADC Administrative Tribunal. In addition, Tulani Mahambire won the first prize in the SADC Secondary Schools essay competition, with Tafadz Wadongorere and Ascension Mahuni coming 4th and 22nd respectively, while Dennis Farai Mahuni was ranked 4th in the SADC Tertiary Institution essay competition. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe continues to advance its amicable foreign relations doctrine under the National Development Strategy 2, image building, international relations, and trade pillar, as presented by Honorable Professor Emon Murwira, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, in his brief to Cabinet on the working visit by the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, His Excellency Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, on the occasion of the 4th session of the Zimbabwe-South Africa Binational Commission, held on the 21st of August 2026. The objectives of the Binational Commission were to reaffirm and strengthen the fraternal bonds, shared history, and strategic partnership between Zimbabwe and South Africa, to to evaluate the progress of implementation of signed instruments of cooperation and ongoing projects, and to consolidate economic, trade, and political cooperation through the signing of strategic memoranda of understanding, MOUs, and bilateral agreements that foster regional integration and economic development. The two heads of state and government reaffirmed their commitment to deepening and broadening bilateral relations between the sister republics. To this end, the following instruments of cooperation were signed during the BNC: MOU on collaboration between the Zimbabwe Foreign Service Institute and the Diplomatic Academy of DICO, MOU on correctional services, rules of procedure governing meetings of the Zimbabwe-South Africa BNC, MOU on cooperation in the field of agriculture, MOU on bilateral cooperation in the fields of women empowerment and gender equality, and MOU on cooperation in the fields of arts, culture, and heritage. The two nations affirmed that they will continue to jointly work together in ensuring smooth repatriation of affected nationals following the recent disturbances in South Africa. The fourth session of the Binational Commission demonstrated the enduring strength of Zimbabwe-South Africa relations, moving beyond historic political ties to concrete economic, infrastructure, and industrial development outcomes for both nations. I present. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for presenting today's cabinet highlights. Let's move to the first round of 3 questions. Questions? Yes.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. My name is Latwo Nyangu from Z10 Prime. My question is directed to Minister Masuka. I think I just have 2 questions. The first question is based on considering that there is a surplus in terms of the food. Do you have probably a buffer stock plan in the event that the consumption rises or the supply falls? Then the other one is based on the consumption rate. Is it actually enough to cover, considering the challenges lying ahead? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. Wallace Rujito from the Hero newspaper. My question is directed at Honorable Minister Masuka. Minister, since you were not there last week when the ZAS update was given, if I may take this opportunity to ask, over the years we've had visiting heads of state coming to officially open the ZAS. Are you at liberty to divulge us with, to give us information on who is officially opening this year's edition? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief Secretary. I am Stanley James from ZBC. My question is directed to the Minister of Mines and Mining Development, Honorable Dr. Paulette Kambamura. Just from the assessment of the mine Entra in terms of the value addition and beneficiation, are we on track from what you observed in terms of what was exhibited and the commitment by the mining industry to ensure that this roadmap continue to gain traction?
Thank you very much. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. 2 questions for Honorable Masuka. First one comes from Latwo Nyangu, then the second one from Wallace Ruzitso. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the 2 journalists. Let's start with the easier of the 2. Is the guest of honor for the 116th version of the Zimbabwe Agricultural Show. The President of the Republic of Namibia has graciously agreed to be the guest of honor on Friday. So we invite all of you. Then the second one relates to consumption patterns and supply. Well, we indicated the likely harvest as measured by Zimstat but also is assessed by the ministry. Currently, Zimstat is doing an assessment of what we call a post-harvest survey, which we started last week, which will inform post-harvest losses and actually say what is available for consumption, for the household strategic grain reserve, and also for sale to the various off-takers. But we may indicate that in terms of progress of the total sales of all crops marketed to either the GMB or private off-takers, there is an 87.6% increase in the marketed crops compared to last year at just over 515,000 metric tons compared to 274,000 last year. We expect the marketing season to begin to taper off. Ordinarily, we say by the 31st of August, and the teams now are meeting with the stakeholders, principally farmers, representatives, farmers' unions, to ascertain how much more marketed grain is available. The consumption patterns are determined by Zimstat when they do the surveys. The last one was done in 2017, 2019, and we expect results from another consumption survey this year. That consumption survey puts us at, although we plan as a ministry at 10 kgs per person per month, which would give us 120 kgs per year, the actual consumption in Zimbabwe is 7.5 kgs per person per month, which is the 92 kgs per person per year. And those are the scenarios. That is why we provide a range of the expected surplus indicating various consumption scenarios. And then the question is if consumption increases. Consumption of staple cereals is actually going down. The 15% of Zimbabweans now consider rice and Irish potato as their basic starch source. So although we use the full population to calculate at planning level what our cereal requirement is, we know from the survey that increasingly the youth and working ladies prefer to parboil rice, to do Irish potato, ahead of doing traditional grains or even maize meal. And that's the trend, and we must continue to cater for that. Maybe we just do a commentary. Yes, we are self-sufficient in terms of Irish potato, commercial table Irish potato production and consumption, but we do have a massive gap in terms of rice consumption. We only produce about 3,000 metric tons against our requirement of between 250,000 to 280,000 metric tons annually. So yes, we continue to monitor consumption, we continue to monitor supply, especially in the context of the predicted El Nino in 2026, 2027. But I previously indicated that government has a very robust plan to ensure that we counter this, and people must take comfort and satisfaction in the leadership of His Excellency the President, who led us in 2024 during a most difficult year. And we've come up with 6 pillars. One of the main ones, which is the first pillar, is an enhanced strategic grain reserve, where we aim to exit the year at about 450,000 metric tons, and we're certainly on course to achieving that, and that will have sufficient to feed the rural population through a strategic intervention through the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, their Social Development Department. And also there will be an opportunity under our Pillar 5 for the private sector to see business in our hunger, but not to profiteer from our hunger, by availing them an opportunity to import additional maize to be able to supply commercial milling requirements, but also to supply the feed requirements. And we will be presenting periodic updates on this expected El Nino once the Ministry of Environment has completed its activity. So I think that's a fairly comprehensive answer, not entirely related to consumption and supply, but with an eye on the expected El Nino. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next question goes to Honorable Kambamura from Stanley James. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The 2026 mine Entra, which was held in Bulawayo from 29th to the 31st of July, was actually a success. On one of the symposium was the beneficiation symposium, where we called all players together, the miners together, those own mines, those their own beneficiation plants, and those we intend to, the scholars, so that we can share ideas, brainstorm, and agree on the way forward. It was also a moment where we clarified government's policy on the ban on export of raw minerals and the transitional measures that government put in place as companies move towards full beneficiation of their minerals. The event was well attended, and we got ideas from the academia, we got ideas from the industry, which we are going to be implementing to firm up our beneficent policies. Also in display were strategies that companies are making in line with government's call for local beneficiation and value addition. Call of companies like Wange Colliery, they displayed the strategy that they've made to come up with a coke oven battery that was down for a number of years. The lithium subsector also made some displays of strategies that they are making towards beneficiation of lithium, cutting and polishing of our gemstones. All these were in display. So generally, the industry is taking up government's call for local beneficiation, and with time, like I've said, to clarify government policy with regard to local value addition and beneficiation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers, for responding to those questions. Let's move to the last round of 3 questions. Yes.
Thank you, Chief. I'm Richmond Siakurima, Radio Zimbabwe. Mine is directed to Honorable Dr. Entra Masuka. Congratulations, Honorable, now that GMB have paid off the farmers for their deliveries. Now my question is, what precautionary measures have you put in place to ensure that farmers are timelessly paid in future deliveries to GMB? I thank you.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. Honorable Masuka, you have a question from Richmond Siakurima. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. We must protest that questions are not coming fast enough. Thank you, Richmond Siakurima, for the very pertinent question. Government endeavors to pay farmers as soon as possible after delivery, noting that, of course, the farmers have obligations that they will have carried throughout the whole season. You will be aware that if we are paying farmers for marketed crops this August, this crop was grown from last year, and the fertilizer was most likely purchased last August. So timeous payment is what government wants to do. However, because of competing resource requirements, it is not always possible to pay farmers as they deliver. And we continue to engage farmers on a weekly basis through our crops working group meetings every Thursday. And that understanding between farmers and government is to be appreciated. And let me take this moment to commend farmers for this very strong delivery of grain to the GMB, which is 126% above last year. Going forward, government hopes that with the increasing fiscal space because of the increased economic activity and the growing economy. You saw last year we grew by a stellar 8.3%, and like this year we are projected to grow by a conservative 5%. It means that there probably will be more resources to be able to pay farmers. So I continue to encourage farmers that government is committed and is going to mobilize resources to enable that, enable timeous payment. But we are also becoming innovative within government. There is what we are calling a crop purchase buffer fund, which has been mooted by government, and its establishment through the Agricultural Finance Corporation has largely been agreed in terms of the framework, where some of the land that was identified in urban areas has been given to the AFC to bring into value addition, as in ensuring that the basic infrastructure is put in place, and as they dispose of that land, a proportion of the proceeds from that sale goes into an escrow account, which will be ring-fenced for purposes of timeous payment of farmers. We also have the Warehouse Receipt Act, where farmers can deliver to the GMB the various depots, including the AI-powered silos, and they get a warehouse receipt. Which warehouse receipt we are now negotiating with financial institutions that this asset called maize, now represented by the warehouse receipt, the farmer can actually borrow on the basis of that without even receiving payments upfront. We are working with ZESA, ZINWA, to say that if farmers are not paid on time, occasionally as that happens, they are able to just instruct GMB that their electricity can be paid from the grain that they actually have supplied to the GMB. Their water bill can equally be paid, and that is what we are looking at in order to ease the cash flow burdens. You will be aware that we also have statutory instrument 87 or 2025, which introduces an import parity pricing and production parity pricing, and the difference is accrued to the fiscus and has been deployed for accelerated irrigation scheme development and also for the payment of farmers. So government is doing everything in its powers to mobilize additional resources, but also to create additional revenue streams to ensure that farmers are paid on time. Thank you.
Let me thank members of the Fourth Estate for the questions, and through you, Honorable Chair, thank the ministers for responding to those questions. We've come to the end of today's post-cabinet press briefing.